Hello and welcome to GAPcast. This is our segment on the GAPTrix to the reactions that we record. My name is Debbie Foreman. I'm your host and I am the founder of GAPTrax. Just a quick little insight. GAPcast is all about gaps, the world of gaps. And we do a lot of content about people who talk about them, mention them, bring them up, and try to address them. And yet, although addressed publicly, it's hard to find systemic solutions to close them. And that's where we come in. So we just did a segment, a reaction with Trevor Noah and Adam Grant. That was the first one, which is our spotlight on influential people that talk about the gaps. And through that, I mentioned that there's a series of different dynamics and frameworks that we use to address them. So now I'm going to dive into a quick overview of the frameworks through the comments that they make. We're going to see Trevor Noah and Adam Grant. We're going to listen to a very short segment. I'm going to comment through it, and then I'm going to show you a few of those dynamics that are used when they say, but how do you do it? I'm going to show you how. You guys ready for this? Here we go. We're going to listen to this short segment. I'm going to go through step by step so you can actually see what we're talking about as we go along. Okay? So
to a more, what I would call like a niche existence. It's your For You feed. It's your algorithm. It's your way of seeing the world. Is there any science or is there a proven way to bridge the gap between yourself and somebody else? Especially, let's start with people you care about.
Yeah.
Someone you care about.
he just asked, is there a proven way to bridge the gap between yourself and somebody else? Is there a way to bridge the gap? And that is a framework between yourself. So he's talking about perception here. I'm going to get into that in a minute and show you how that perception works.
Who holds a view that you, as you said, you would make you launch a rant against it. Like you go like, I cannot believe you hold this view, knowing you as a human being the way I thought I did.
All right. One of my favorite phrases in the world is to launch a rant. I adopted that from Trevor because I just launched one last week. But back to this, he's talking about when people hold opposing views, is there a way to bridge that gap in through perception? And so the framework that we use regarding perception is, and this is basically what Trevor was just saying, how can you see the world in this view? Well, we start with this exercise, which is I see myself as, and I am seen as, or people see me as. I see myself as, people see me as, I see you as, you see yourself as. And how does that really work? It is as simple as taking nouns. I see myself as a noun, and I see myself with an adjective to that noun. Okay? I see myself as a mother. I see myself as a strict mother. I see myself as a happy mother. I see myself as a worried mother. Well, what is that adjective that's going to describe how you see yourself, how people see you, or how you think people see you? How you see other people and how you think they see themselves. And it is as simple as putting those down, doing the exercise and swapping the paper to be able to start bridging the gap, or I'm going to call it closing the gap in perception, because people's lives start from different roots. We have different roots that we sprout from. And to be able to see the other person's side and to understand that they may have a perception and a view completely different is as simple as using a framework like this. Let's continue on.
So ideally, what you start with is you say, okay, I'm feeling the strong temptation to preach and prosecute.
I just have to comment. I love the phrase to preach and prosecute because we do it all the time and it's a temptation. So let's see where he goes from that, because when that temptation comes, it means that we're going to increase the gap and not close it or bridge it.
And I want to think more like a scientist here. Don't let your ideas become your identity.
Okay.
So a good scientist would have the humility to know what they don't know and the curiosity to keep.
And that's it. We're talking about the scientific evidence to know what you don't know. So in the world of gaps, just like in any other science, whether it's exact science or more into the objective sciences or subjective sciences, to know what you don't know. And how do we do that? Well, once again, I'm just showing quick frameworks because the question that Trevor asked in the beginning is there a way to bridge these gaps? Is there a way to discover this? And yes. And what Adam just said is to know what you don't know. And I want you to take a look at this. I'm going to say this really fast and I'm going to slow it down. I know that I know. I know that I don't know. I don't know that I know. and I don't know that I don't know. Well, what does that look like? And how does that show where gaps are? I know that I know. That's an evidence-based memory or knowledge that you have that you do not have to think about. So if somebody asks you, do you want a fried egg? You don't have to think about whether you know or don't know what an egg is. You know what it is. I know that I don't know. And that's where the bridge in perception comes from. That's conscientiously knowing and being aware that there's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know. I always use the following as an example. I know that I don't know how to change a flat tire. I wear that as a badge of honor. But when you know that you don't know something, you can either become defensive and increase that gap in perception and in the argument, or you can do a contingency plan and say, listen, I know that I don't know that. I've chosen not to know it. And so I'm going to take a safety route on that. I don't know that I know. What does that actually mean? It means that there's stored memories, so much that we know that we have forgotten about or we can't recall on our own. But then all of a sudden there's a trigger and you go, oh my goodness. I'm going to give you an example from last week. I went to an event out of town. And when I got to the door, somebody called my name from behind. And believe it or not, it was the younger sister of a family that I lived with in Australia in 1984. And as soon as I saw her, all of these triggered memories started coming back. And it was like, oh my God, I didn't know, I don't remember, now I do. Okay? And then there's the last one. I don't know that I don't know. That's the world of everything that we've never been exposed to. So when somebody comes to us with new information and we are like, what? That doesn't exist. It may exist and we just didn't know it. So we can either create a gap perception, think, wow, I didn't know that existed. And now I'm going to dive into it and learn about it. And that would mean that you went from I don't know that I know to I know that I know. Or you could go from I don't know that I don't know that I don't know to I know that I don't know, and you just decide not to learn about it. Now, what is the flip side of this? And how does this work to answer Adam's statement or to address Adam's statement, the scientific side? Once you're aware that there's things that you know and don't know, and you realize there's gaps in them, and those gaps are hindering your progress, then you need to self-address, or you can address this to yourself, to a team, to a community. What I am doing that I shouldn't be doing. That means you're doing something that you shouldn't be. You know that. We do think that all the time, like, eating chocolate late at night. What am I doing that I should be doing? That means you're doing something right. Keep it up. You're doing a great job. This, you're doing something wrong. Here, you're doing something right. What I am not doing that I shouldn't be doing. That means that you're not doing something you shouldn't, which is also doing something right. And then what I am not doing that I should be doing. Oops. That's where the omission is. That's where the action has to occur. So by tweaking those two frameworks and joining them together, what I am not doing that I should be doing, it's time to fix it. I'm doing something wrong. You want a good job? You want to keep going? What I am not doing that I shouldn't be doing, great. I know that I don't know. Time to upskill. And I know that I know. Great. It's hard to focus on the hard stuff. This is just a really quick overview to address, and these are the assignments that we have in GAPTrix, but this is just a really quick overview to address what is being said. So now we're going to go back and just listen in a little bit more to where he's talking.
Seeking new knowledge.
Okay.
And the way you start doing that is you say,
I love it.
What an interesting specimen. Don't say that out loud.
Okay.
But I think that,
I was like, okay, this is not going to help build your friendships.
no,
Okay.
but the more somebody holds a different opinion,
Yes.
the less you understand about how they think.
Okay.
Even if you're offended by what they think. And that means you have
I
to
disagree
want
with
to know more.
Adam. It would be ideal, it'd be a utopic world when he says you have to want to know more. That's like a dream state. That would be wonderful if the world worked that way. But reality is that most people don't want to know more. They don't want to address it because most of these subjects are taboo and they get swept under the carpet, which is why these gaps arise. I think Adam's addressing the utopic state and not the realistic state.
So you've got a couple options. I think the first one is to just establish that two reasonable, intelligent people can actually disagree.
Yeah.
And that's okay. A second is what I love to do is I love to ask, and this is when I remember to do it. It leads to a much better conversation. Like, okay, Trevor, so like you called yourself a Pisces. That's so interesting to me that you would put any stock in something that I think has no evidence behind it.
And
what
there
evidence
we
would
are.
change your mind?
How do you show the evidence?
What happens? What follows?
What evidence? And we're talking about the world of evidence. And here we go to the last portion of what I want to talk about. And this is kind of like first of all, is a collaborative practice. When we say collaborative, that addresses the first part, that distance between the two sides coming together. How do we collaborate to close that gap, to bridge that gap, which was Trevor's first question. And then the second was, what are the mechanics or frameworks or dynamics that we have for that? And now Adam is talking about the evidence. Well, let's take a look at this. First, we're going to need to be aware. I see myself as, I see you as, you see me as. There's an awareness there. Once we're aware of it, we can prepare a solution. We can talk about it. We can collaborate. We can prepare for it. And once we've prepared for it and we begin to implement it, we can assess it. When it's assessed, we go to evidence. Does the evidence show that we're closing the gap? Does the evidence show that we're bridging the gap? Does the evidence show that we're approaching and coming together? Or does the evidence show that it's not working? If it's not working, what do we need to prepare and assess that's different? So basically, obviously, this is not a full-blown lesson and we're not going to get into the details of it. But I think what the most important part is that critical questions are being asked. Trevor Noah is asking critical questions, and he brings up gaps a lot, and we're going to go back to it because he has a profound understanding of cultural gaps, economic gaps, linguistic gaps, societal gaps, perception gaps, and he's constantly seeking, ways to address it. Adam is a renowned professional, and it was a pleasure to meet him back in 2014. I don't even think he remembers me, but that was great, down in Brazil. But Adam brings a really clear perception to that. What is hard for most people to understand is that there are quick, simple solutions through framework. And so I'm really hoping that these hints and tricks make sense to the sequence of questions and observations that the two of them are making in this conversation. And as they converse, and you see that there's a world out there of quick solutions, and if you feel that there's a gap or a series of gaps, and there's things that you need to kind of tie together, don't feel like this is just lost in space for the big people to talk about or the influential people to talk about or for you to see. It's obtainable for every single human being in the world. You can do it. And I'm going to hopefully bring you more hints and tricks so you can start applying these. In the meantime, let's thank Trevor and let's thank Adam for this wonderful content that they have done and produced. I will see you on the next one. We've got a lot of interesting things coming up. And if you have any comments or questions about how you can apply this, just comment and we'll be there. Oh, and don't forget to do the finger slide. Like the creepy crawly, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.